It is a piece of our city's history that 40 years later, it's really hard to believe.
The Atlanta child murders, 29 black kids dead.
It's almost 40 years and he's still the same conniving, manipulative person that he's always been.
Wayne Williams suspected, but never charged.
Wayne Williams didn't kill our children.
No closure, just questions.
I'm not over with it. I'm still not over. I think about it all the time.
Now, lost evidence and a secret investigation.
You gotta find a lot of records was intentionally destroyed by these agencies.
And a renewed search for answers.
To know that the family still don't have peace is quite unsettling.
This is Murder in Black and White.
I'm Naima Abdullahi. 11 Alive has spent the past 5 months unraveling one of the most haunting chapters of Atlanta's history. The Atlanta child murders terrorized black neighborhoods from 1979 to 1981 and took the lives of 29 kids and young adults. But now, 4 decades after it began, the notorious investigation is now back open, and what we found hidden inside old documents and new interviews may just shed fresh light on this cold case. Now, this all started back in February when I sat down with Miss Catherine Leach. It was her heartfelt plea for her son and the other child murder victims that changed the course of this investigation forever.
40 painful years later,
it feels like we never got to the bottom of who did everything.
The infamous killing spree that terrorized Atlanta's black neighborhoods still weighs heavy on the children of that era, like Timothy Freeman.
Coming up black, we already knew we had to watch our back.
29 black children killed between 1979 to 1981, a case that would notoriously be known as the Atlanta child murders. Vincent Richardson, still haunted by those memories. Did you know any of the victims?
Yeah, I actually was best friends with Curtis Walker's brother. I knew Curtis also. He was like our little brother, you know.
Curtis Walker left for dead at 13 years old. The suspect in all the cases, Wayne Williams, never convicted of killing Curtis and all the other children. Curtis Walker's mother, Catherine Leach, still relives the agonizing funeral. The pain that you felt that day, you don't get over something like that.
I'm not over with it. I'm still not over. I think about it all the time.
Where was he headed when he went missing?
That day he had got out of school and I told him, Mama don't want y'all to go outdoors.
40 years later, the family and friends of Curtis Walker now have one request.
It needs to be a memorial. That doesn't ease the pain, but it just gives them some sort of comfort, you know, knowing that they can go back and just think about what they could have been.
Ms. Catherine Leach says she made this request for a memorial with previous Atlanta City Council members. These were the previous attempts that you have had to get a memorial or a monument for the kids. This will be helped to restore honor and respect to the parents who lost their children and to the children who lost their lives through no fault of their own. And now with Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in office, she's once again pleading. If you could share one message with Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, what would it be?
Can you please help us get a monument or plaque?
And she'll keep waiting for a memorial, each name engraved into the history books finally in an honorable way.
I'm still standing, I'm still wanting it.
Miss Catherine never imagined outliving her baby boy, but she says she'll keep living for him and all the other children.
I want them to come forth and help me with the dream that I had for the children of Atlanta.
We took Ms. Catherine's plea straight to the mayor's office. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms was so moved by our story, she decided to take quick action.
I want to know who killed Curtis.
Mayor, when you first watched Ms. Catherine Leach's plea, what kind of went through your head, especially you growing up in Atlanta as a child during that era?
I knew about it because I was 9 years old in 1979 when the murders began. And each time I watch her speak and I've watched her story, it breaks my heart. I cried with her.
For a decision to be made for the evidence to be reevaluated, what does that do for the city and what does that do for Atlanta's historic African American communities who endured that amount of pain nearly 40 years ago until now?
I hope that it says to the public that our children matter. African American children still matter.
Did you know any of the kids, any of the victims personally?
I didn't, but it was interesting as we were speaking and I was reading the names. There's so many names that I remembered. I remember their pictures on the news, and you know, it is a piece of our city's history that 40 years later, it's really hard to believe. To know that the family still don't have peace is quite unsettling.
What crosses my mind is what they could have been and who they could have been, because that could have been any child during that time.
It could have been any of us. It could have been any of us. I'm grateful to you, and I just appreciate your bringing attention in and allowing people like Mrs. Leach to be able to speak and share their pain, because for her, she lives it every day.
With news of the cases reopening, more families decided to come forward with hopes of finally sharing their stories, like Miss Lois Evans. Now, for decades, she stayed silent, knowing her son's death was just the start of the horrific Atlanta child murders. Summer of 1979.
He had just graduated from the 7th grade.
The start of the city's nightmare.
But he left to go and he never did come back. So I gets on the phone calling around trying to find him, but I never did.
Alfred Evans disappeared and was found dead at Niskey Lake Road in southwest Atlanta.
I didn't want to believe it. I'm still puzzled now.
Lois Evans is still waiting for justice to find out what happened to her son and the other children. So is Isaac Rogers, who believes his brother Patrick was murdered by Wayne Williams.
They got the right guy. That was one of the most frightening times in my life.
Isaac says he escaped Wayne Williams when he was 7 years old, that he was almost a victim when he walked to a neighbor's apartment with his 2 cousins.
As we got ready to exit her porch and walk down the stairs, that's when the guy that I now know of as Wayne Williams stepped from behind the wall to block us off from going down the stairs.
He says his 2 cousins got away and he knocked on a neighbor's door for safety.
Which is how I was able to tell in such detail everything he was wearing.
He still longs for a definite closure.
I really got sad about it.
Like the family of Michael McIntosh.
He will always take me riding on the back of the bike.
They lost their 23-year-old brother in 1981.
We don't have no closure. We don't know who, why. We need to find out who's responsible.
Before Wayne Williams became a suspect, a separate secret investigation was underway. Who was involved and why was it kept a secret until now?